Like me, author Michael Bond, the creator of Paddington Bear, among other characters, also celebrates his 90th birthday this year. Here are his reflections on the 1926 vintage and the passing of the years. I was born on January the 13th, 1926. My mother took one look at the scales and decided to call it a day. I weighed over 11 pounds. So I was destined to be an only child at the outset. As a precaution, she stood me in a bowl of Tidman's sea salt to stop me going bandy with the weight, and it seems to have worked. Apart from an entry in the local paper, my arrival went unreported. The Times of London was more concerned with the fate of a bus conductor who was in court charged with allowing an excess of passengers to board an omnibus in East Ham. They swarmed on before I had a chance to count them, was his plea. Things have moved at a different rate since those days. I was fortunate enough to be brought up in a house where books were part of the furniture. My mother was such an avid reader that she wrote to authors to thank them and in the same letter ask if they would make the next book a little longer. My father's motto was, "The most precious gift you can bestow on a child is your time." He was a very polite man and always wore a hat when he went outside in public in case he met anyone he knew, even when paddling in the sea. That aside, he tended to be accident-prone. For example, he rode a bicycle to work, and one day he managed to get both wheels caught inside a tram line. Instead of stopping there and then to unravel himself, he left it until he reached the depot, only to fall and break a collarbone. And I clearly remember the day when he suggested a race. I got to the bottom of the garden, and my father wasn't with me. He had set off at great speed, with his head down to reduce resistance, and ran straight into the garden shed. Flat on his back, he was muttering, "Stripe me pink." Addressing people older than yourselves by their Christian name, if you were a child, could be a tricky business in those days, which meant that most adults were either labelled an uncle or an auntie. Owing to the horrendous casualties in the First World War, there were far more of the latter, and because most of them led lonely lives, I was frequently invited to stay while I was growing up. It was a mixed blessing. There was Auntie M, who insisted on giving me a daily bath. She smoked endless cigarettes while she was doing it, and the ash used to fall all over me. Then there were two aunts who kept a dog kennel near Newbury's Green Common. Auntie Anne, who brought up everyone to attention whenever the national anthem was played on the radio, and Auntie G, who was stone deaf. The latter loved going to the cinema, and as she was unable to lip read from the picture on the screen, Auntie Annie took a torch and shone the light on her own lips instead, as she read the words out loud. Lovely ladies both, but confusion was being piled on confusion. It wasn't until I reached the age of 90 that I began to realize the comfort of Louise Haskins' words, suggesting that when you have a problem, your best bet is to consult the man who stands at the gate of the year. Truly, if you put your hand into the hand of God, that shall be to you better than light and safer than a known way.